Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is somewhat of a trailblazer. You know how we love to celebrate women who are doing amazing things. Well, we don't just do it in 1 month. We do it all the time. Not only is this woman amazing, she is helping to be the change that she wants to be when it comes to Social Security Disability. Did you know that 85% of the people who initially apply for Social Security Disability are denied? Well, our guest this morning has been practicing for 4 decades at Neblett, Beard and Arsenault, one of the largest firms in central Louisiana who's doing business around the world. Well, she specializes in Social Security Disability. Her name is attorney Barbara Mixon. She's from the parish, so you know that makes her just full of oomph and go get 'em already. And she has been doing this for many, many years. She has helped nearly 10,000 people receive Social Security Disability, and we welcome her to the OPT Network for the very first time. Barbara, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and welcome to you, too. And you're right, it is good to see someone from the parish who understands how we talk and what we say, and to meet someone we know. We're from the same town.
Absolutely. So we have been just really connecting on people that we know. I cheered, her daughter and I were cheerleaders together way back in the day.
So I'm going to correct just a little thing you said. I have been practicing for 40 years, but I've only been at Neblett, Beard and Arsenault for the past 5. And I will say it's been probably the best 5 years of my employment.
Did you wonder what took you so long to get there?
It was a slow process. I worked for 21 years for the federal government doing this.
Wow.
Then I worked for 10 years in private practice and then got a call from Mr. Arsenault. Have been thrilled and delighted to work that since.
So let's rewind some 40 years ago when you were at LSU in law school. Talk about the significance of what happened 40 years ago.
What happened 40 years ago was in LSU in undergraduate school, and I didn't have a car, so we used to take the bus from the apartments to school. And I was sitting on the bus with 3 other boys, and they said they were taking the LSAT. That's the entrance exam to law school. You're right. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think I'm going to take it. And they said, why? No women ever go to law school. So I took it, I got in, and they didn't. And that was a source of great pride. My class was probably the first where they took women. And when I say women, I would say maybe 20. I do pride myself that I am the second woman from a Vols parish to have finished law school.
Amazing. Yeah. Was it daunting?
It was overwhelming. I liken it to, I don't want to say prison, but I would. It was absolutely overwhelming.
So when you told your folks that you were going to go to law school, they said what?
I don't think they had any idea either. I had an uncle, Tony Roy from Marksville, and I went to talk to him, and he said, why are you going to law school? You're going to get pregnant and take some man's place. So that was kind of the mindset.
And that was the adage that people had back then.
Mm-hmm. And then I was only 20 years old when I started. So we just did it. I went into it not knowing what to expect, and thank God, because I probably never would have gone.
Really? Did you love it? Did you find your passion in it?
No.
You didn't?
No, my passion always would have been to go into politics and be involved with people and help do something to change the world.
But in a sense, though, with where you are in your practice, you're helping.
Yes.
To change a lot of people's lives.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because this practice is not a practice where you're going to get a $20 million verdict, or you're not going to make the newspaper headlines.
Or not even where you're going to break the bank.
No, I'm not, and I know it. But you did. I remember when I was working for the federal government, one of the judges told us, don't look down at what you do. This could be the biggest decision that ever happens in these people's lives.
Absolutely.
And that's how I look at it. To these people that I represent, this is as important to them as some personal injury client who comes into the office with $1 million claim. This will change the course of their lives.
Forever.
Forever. And if you look at it like that, you take a great deal of comfort from it, because truly you are helping the least of them.
The least of thee. That's right.
Right. And people, it amazes me, a majority of my clients who don't expect much out of life. Isn't that sad?
Mm-hmm. That's why we wake up and do this show every single morning, so that people can really turn their expectors up.
Yes, that life doesn't have to be like this. That there are ways you can get help.
Right.
And I was telling you earlier, there's such an urban myth about this, that everyone's on it for the dollar, that people, it's simply not true. First of all, you're not going to get through the process and get a favorable decision if you don't have something wrong with you. They're not handing out checks willy-nilly. I'm not going to take you as a client unless you have a good case, and the judges aren't going to award you benefits unless you have a good case. So all of that
is a misnomer.
It is a misnomer, and it's insulting to me and to what I do. Mm-hmm. And it's insulting to the people who, for no fault of their own, can't work anymore.
Absolutely. So when you were working for the federal government for all of those years, did it give you a sense of how they do business and how you can really expedite and help the process in helping the people?
We did. They had several. It was the hearing office that I go to now, and they did initiate programs to help. And that's another thing, another misnomer about the federal employee, that they're just sitting around doing nothing. That's not true. Mm-hmm. We worked hard. We saw these people were in need, and we really did try and get him a decision that was just and appropriate to the situation. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of, and I don't want to get on my soapbox, but this is a poor economy with a poor educational system and a limited workforce.
Okay.
And all of that factors into disability. And you can't ignore these people, and I don't. And they're so grateful when someone does reach out to help them. And we do. We have clients who come from every walk of life, every type of job, and we treat them all the same. One thing I pride myself on, there are other attorneys who do this, and I know how they work, but if you call our office, you're going to talk to me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to answer your call. I'm going to be with you at the hearing. I'm going to walk you through this process. You're not going to be put in a line. We try, our caseload is manageable, it's doable, and I think we are, I don't want to say kind, but we're courteous, and we go out of our way to make our clients feel comfortable, whether they win or lose their case.
Mm-hmm. And kind is a good word. I mean, because at that point where people can no longer work, they need the kindness of somebody and the courtesy of somebody to say, we can help you.
And you're right. And they want somebody to listen to them.
And they want somebody to listen.
Not to disparage them.
Or not to judge them.
No. And they do. They want someone to listen to them. And however it ends up, it's about a year-long proceeding, and it amazes me. There are two things about doing this that amaze me: how spouses help each other through this, and how these people manage to hang on with the most limited of finances until they do get a decision. And that's another thing we do. It's more than represent them. I'll say, have you applied for food stamps? Have you applied for Medicaid? Have you looked into this program?
And for people who have worked for most of their lives.
It's so demeaning.
And it could be devastating.
I have seen grown men cry, sit in my office, and because they don't want to do this. Nobody gets rich getting on Social Security. And, tears, and say, I never thought my life would come to this.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about why there's such a high percentage of people who apply for Social Security Disability denied. We're going to have all of that, plus more, right after this. Stay on point.
This portion of On Point Talk Television has been brought to you by Christus Cabrini Hospital. Smart medicine, healing grace.
Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is attorney Barbara Mixon. She is from the firm of Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault, and she specializes in Social Security Disability. And at the top of the show, I talked about the percentage rate of denials being at 85+%. So why do so many people get denied?
There are various reasons. Some people are denied because they don't meet the technical qualifications to qualify for Social Security benefits, or they have too much money to get SSI. But the majority of the determinations are made on medical reasons. You are not sick enough to be considered disabled.
Wow.
And there is some, they're weeding out those who truly aren't disabled. But years ago, I went to a forum that they put on and said, they found that if 50 people apply and are denied, only 25 will appeal that. So in essence, you're weeding out potential beneficiaries, not only by denying them, but by denying those who will not appeal.
Wow.
So I'm not saying it's a concerted effort, it's a deliberate effort.
But it's just
the
what
way
happens.
it works. That's what happens. When someone comes into my office and they have not filed, I tell them, expect to be denied. You're going to be disappointed, but don't think your case is over. That's just what's going to happen.
So at what point do people need to seek out an attorney? Because I think that that's really the source of confusion for a lot of people.
We will accept a client at any step in the process. If they haven't filed, we will interview them. If that case has merit, we advise them how to file. When they do that, send in our forms. We'll take them before they've gotten any kind of determination. If they've gotten an initial denial, we will appeal that for them. And if they're at the hearing level, we'll take that case. We'll take a case at any time, unless it's been denied through a hearing. If they've had another attorney and they've gotten denied, that's a little tricky because you don't want to impinge upon someone else's client. But typically, from those who have not applied to those who have applied and been denied, the whole spectrum.
And so once you get denied, then what? Then what has to happen?
You file a request for hearing. If you're a client of ours, it's about an 8-page interview that you have to do. We do that for you. We send it in, and then your file sits at a hearing office on Government Street, and you wait for a hearing. All the while, you're calling us. We're gathering your medical records. We're going through your Social Security file. We're ordering your medical records. And then within a year, and that is the truth, you will wait a year for a hearing. We will.
Do we know why it's so long? Because if you're disabled and you're that means you're not earning.
Right.
And so that means that you're not able to meet yours and your family's needs in the same way.
Yes.
As you were when you were working.
And why it takes so long. When I worked there were times it took 2.5 years. That office is understaffed. There's probably a 6,000 case waiting
load. Wow.
At that hearing office. And they're understaffed, just like everything is now.
Right.
There are cuts and they don't replace people. And with a failing economy, they said the worse the economy, the better my business is.
Wow.
Which is a terrible thing to say, and you don't want to take advantage of it, but people lose their jobs and they don't know where to turn.
Right. And so what constitutes a person being disabled?
That all depends. There are certain diseases that if you suffer from, let's say you have had a kidney transplant, Social Security automatically considers you disabled for a year thereafter. If you're on dialysis, if you suffer from certain cancers that have metastasized, that automatically equates to a finding of disability.
For those people, metastasized just means that it's moved to other areas of the body.
Right. Most cases aren't that easy. And you'll have a 55-year-old gentleman who has had one back surgery and continues with back pain, and then you have to factor in his age, his education, the kind of work he did in the past, and then you go to a hearing and the judge determines what it is that man can do. And
wow, the judge determines that?
Yes, the judge determines that, and based on his or her determination, that's how you reach a finding of disability. You can bring in medical, and the hearings, most people are terrified of them. As you told me when I came here, don't be afraid.
Right.
It's no more intimidating than this. It's in a hearing room, there are 4 people there, and there are no strict rules of evidence. It's non-confrontational, informal proceeding where the judge gets a chance to talk to the claimant, just as I'm talking to you.
So let's talk about, how much money that the person would receive per month? How is that factored? What algorithm, if you will, do they use to get there?
If you're there are two kinds of benefits, two primary kinds: disability insurance benefits and supplemental security income. Disability insurance benefits, I always liken those to you're old enough to retire. They're paid out of the same pot. You contribute to Social Security.
Right.
You either become disabled or you're old enough to retire. The amount.
So they're going to look at what you have
paid
earned,
in.
okay, or
Right.
what you've paid in for your whole work life.
Right.
Okay.
And that determines the amount of benefits you're going to get. SSI is...
So it's going to be absolutely different for every single
person.
Okay.
Every person. And with those benefits, if you've paid in enough, and if you have minor children or a wife who qualifies, those auxiliary beneficiaries will be entitled to benefits in addition to what is paid to you.
Okay.
Now, SSI is called Supplemental Security Income. It's an old welfare program that was grandfathered into the federal government. SSI, you have to have limited income and limited resources, and those benefits cap out at $750 a month, and they're only paid to the individual themselves. Mm-hmm. There's no auxiliary benefits.
Okay. And so, all right, after you have this hearing, you're going to wait about a year.
No, after you have the hearing, you wait a year to get a hearing.
To get the hearing.
Typically within 2 to 3 months, you'll get a decision.
All right. So let's talk about the back pay and how that is determined. You know, a lot of people are trying to figure out, okay, when do I get the money from which date?
That's a very good question. SSI benefits, the past due benefits, are paid from the date you apply. You apply June 6th, and you get a favorable decision June 6, 2019. You're owed a year of past due benefits.
Okay.
Disability insurance benefits have a 1-year retroactive effect. You apply June 6, 2018.
That's all you're going to get is 1 year.
You'll get to June 6, 2017,
okay,
up until you're paid.
Okay.
So you get an extra year with disability.
Mm-hmm. And so speak to those people, Barbara, who maybe applied, got denied, and just stopped right there. And they're watching you this morning, and they're saying, okay, she's a godsend. Is there hope for those people that maybe they filed 2 years ago and they were turned down and nothing?
If they have not returned to work, I would tell them to reapply. Mm-hmm. Contact our office. I mean, it's not going to cost you anything to talk to me. And even if I can't help you, I'll help you. It's going to help you. It's going to help you. Even if I don't take your case, I'm going to give you some advice.
Right.
And reapply. Mm-hmm. And call us. We're open to talking to anyone, I promise you. And you may have been denied for some obscure reason you don't even know. You bring in your paperwork, I can look at it and tell you, well, this was the reason.
So you can almost look at the paperwork and see why they were denied.
Oh, yes.
Wow. All right. Stay on point, everybody. We're going to take a break, but we'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is attorney Barbara Mixon. She is from Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault, and we're talking about Social Security Disability. And I know that a lot of people have questions about it. Some people say, Barbara, it is absolutely impossible, and it's really, really tough.
It is not impossible. It is difficult. It's difficult if you've never been through the process and the forms overwhelm you and you're not computer savvy. Mm-hmm. Yes, it can be difficult. Do you have to have an attorney to represent you? Absolutely not. You can be represented by a friend, mm-hmm, by a non-attorney. You can go into the hearing alone. There's no requirement that you have a representative in the case.
But let me just say this. It's always better, to me, if you have somebody that understands, you understand the federal aspect of it, and you understand how to navigate it. No, you don't have to have an attorney. But here's the thing. I think an attorney that is experienced, that's been through this numerous times, is always going to be better.
Well, I share that. And I'm not going to tell you that attorney has to be me, but if you have an attorney who's worked with this hearing office, as I have for 37 years, they call, this is Barbara, then who I am. They know how to help me. They know if I bring a client, it's a legitimate client.
Right.
And I'm going to not brag, but...
Go ahead and brag.
Okay, I'll brag. We probably win about 80% of our cases.
That's awesome.
Which is, I'm not going to say it's an impressive number.
Absolutely. Why as women do we have to sort of dim our light?
I don't know.
I mean,
isn't that
that's
terrible?
Impressive. That's impressive in every way.
And you're right, and I'm going to say that.
Absolutely.
I win about approximately 80% of my cases. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it all my career.
I love that.
I work with my clients hand in hand.
Own it.
And I will. And I'm not going to say make myself as to this saint, but I care about my clients. I do.
That's really what it's about. And people can feel that. And you could be practicing any kind of law that you wanted, really.
I did this because when I went into the practice of law, you were talking about women. There were so few women who were doing it. And I needed to get a job. I had 2 small children where I could work and take care of my children.
Sure.
So I went to work for the federal government. I know women. I grew up with Jeanette Knoll, who managed to become a Supreme Court justice with 5 children. And
absolutely.
It can be done. Either I didn't have the wherewithal, or it was just brand new. We were just that generation who was starting to practice law. So I made a compromise in my career and with my home life. And it's worked out. It's worked out wonderfully for me. It worked out a lot better than I thought it would.
Absolutely. And I think that there's something special about women that we bring to business in the nurturing and the caring about people. Because you have seen families that have really losing their jobs or being unable to work has, I'm sure in many cases, dissipated the family.
Yes. And it's amazing to me. And you see people really who say, look, I've got my water bill, I can't pay it, and they have no means to pay it. And you can say, apply for food stamps, apply for Medicaid. That only goes so far. And
that is a process.
And we talk about, I'm going to get on my political soapbox here. We talk about in this country now, how we protect life and how we protect this. Well, let's protect life from the time they're born throughout. Mm-hmm. We owe an obligation to people who paid into this system, who trusted the government. They paid on the theory. It was an agreement. I'm going to pay, and if something happens to me where I can't work, you're going to take care of me.
Absolutely. And there are so many people.
We made a contract with them.
And there are so many people that are saying, you're absolutely right, Barbara. I worked all of my life, and the people who really don't deserve the money seem to get the money, and I'm struggling here to get what I believe I paid in.
And that is, people say, they love to say, well, I know so-and-so who gets it.
Right.
And that's true. Mm-hmm. But no, realistically, from my point of view, most people who get disability benefits deserve them. They've worked hard. That's a client I want, someone who's worked hard, who through no fault of their own became ill, who's not going to get any better, who's not going to return to work. And my typical client will get far less in benefits than they ever got in salary. Wow. They're not going to get rich on this. There's no way. I don't get rich doing it. They're not going to get rich doing it. It's a contract they made with the federal government, and it's a federal government's bond to keep it.
Right. And you see to it that those people who are deserving of Social Security disability are able to get it.
We make every effort. We typically, and Ashton, can tell you because she does our intakes, I'll interview 10 clients before I'll accept one. We have a very high screening process. Mm-hmm. We don't take everyone who walks through the door. And I think that as well speaks to our success rate.
Absolutely.
When we take a case, we know it's a good case.
Mm-hmm. And now let's talk about that initial meeting for those people that are saying, wow, okay, I hear you. I need to speak to you. How does that initial consultation happen?
They call the office. A call is forwarded to me. If I'm in the office, I will interview them by telephone. Typically, people want to come in and meet me. Then we'll set up an appointment. They come in. I get all the information I need. If I deem it a case that we can take, we'll sign the forms. If I feel it's a case we can't take, you don't want to just tell them, no, I'm sorry.
Right.
You try and head them in the right direction. Well, look, you need to do this. You should call this person. Try and do this. Mm-hmm. Then once we take the case over, we begin to order the medical records. We get a copy of everything Social Security sends that person. We take care of any appeal. And the one thing I want to emphasize is there are no fees owed. When you walk in, it's free. The only way you owe a fee is if you get a favorable decision that results in past due benefits. The fee is taken from your past due benefits paid to your attorney by the government. We order your medical records. We don't even charge you for that. You will never get a bill from our office.
Wow, that's amazing. And so it sounds like it's a lot for any one person to keep up with in order to move the case forward if you're an individual without an attorney.
Yes, it probably is. Sometimes it's a lot for me to keep the case, but no, it is. It can be. I can see how it could be daunting to someone who faces and thinks, I don't have a job, I don't have any money, you know, how am I going to get through this?
Right. What to do next?
Yeah, what do I do?
Right. Well, so one of the most important things to do is to call attorney Barbara Mixon at Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault. And as you can see, her passion and her compassion is really, I think, for me, if I was needing that, that's what I want. Because this is probably the lowest, one of the lowest points that you can be at in your life.
Absolutely.
When you're saying, look, I need the government to help me.
And thank you for saying that, and thank you for recognizing that. Yes, this is a job that does give me enormous personal satisfaction. The people I work with are incredible. They give me all the support I need, and I thank you for recognizing that point, that these are people who are, in the most cases, desperate.
Absolutely. I recognize that right away. And I think that our listeners and our viewers can recognize that as well. And what I love is that Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault is a firm that is soundly equipped with the best experts, the best monetary to take care of every client, no matter what their case.
And if I can add to that, I don't make a lot of money for Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault. They're known for big verdicts and big cases and big everything.
Big, yeah.
Yes, and I'm a little cog in that big wheel. But Mr. Arsenault has been so gracious to me and said, I realize you're never going to bring in the money that any other attorney brings in. But this is a gap he wants to fill.
Absolutely.
Because he sees a need, too. He's not going to make money off of this.
But I've talked to him as well, and he comes from humble beginnings. And y'all's connection, I could feel that right away, is because he is about helping people.
He is, and people may not know that about him.
People don't know that about him.
They may not, but if you would know him, that's truly his purpose in life, no matter what circumstance. He wouldn't have me there if it was, and I don't serve.
You do. Don't dim your light.
Okay. I serve a purpose for him that's not monetary, but I think he sees a need to help the people in this community.
Absolutely.
A community that's been so good to him that he wants to give back to them.
Absolutely. And that is well said. Before we've got to go, attorney Barbara Juno Mixon has been our guest. Tell people how they can connect with you.
You can call our office, which is 318-561-2500. Or if you want to call me directly, my line is 888-561-2561.
There you go. It takes a woman sometimes to get the job done.
It takes a woman all the time to get the job done.
Our guest this morning has been attorney Barbara Juno Mixon. She's at Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault. And if you find yourself struggling, trying to figure it out, give her a call. Barbara, you've been great.
Oh, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Ours
thank
too.
You.
Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're back right after this. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Carlette Christmas.
And I'm Glenda Stock, and this is our final point today, On Point.
Glenda, I absolutely enjoyed Barbara Juno Mixon.
She's a character.
She is. She's from Avoyelles Parish, and I love Barbara's voice. Mm-hmm. But what I love most is that at Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault, they could choose to do any number of things. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that she mentioned is that they're known for their big cases, but she's really passionate about helping the least of thee. And I think we can all really relate to someone who has needed Social Security Disability and for so many reasons weren't able to connect and get it.
Yeah.
I love how she breaks it down. And, of course, you and I are always intrigued by a self-made woman.
Absolutely.
And she's yet another example of someone that wasn't afraid to step into a man's world.
That's right.
And frankly did it at a time that was very much, not happening.
No, and it wasn't popular. You can't even say it was popular 40 years ago for women, to step into that.
She had to be the only girl in the room for a lot of scenarios.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of moxie to be the only woman surrounded by men who, at that time, were not cheering you on. But saying you're going to just take some man's space. You're going to just go home and have babies. But she was really on a mission and on a quest to be able to hone her craft and ultimately help people.
Absolutely. And, she, I think, is so educational for both sides of this spectrum because it is sometimes easy to get into a mindset when we see people who are living on these assistance programs to maybe not always understand how the process is not going to allow the fraud to occur.
Right.
That's encouraging to me, frankly, as a taxpayer and as someone who works in the workforce, that is very encouraging. That, again, I really value her process of screening people, because she said that she may meet with 10 clients and
only choose one.
Yeah, only choose one of those.
So she's not trying to help people to milk the system.
She's not giving out a free handout for people who are not deserving. She actually does her job, which is that of identifying the true need, and the people that have been through probably circumstances that none of us can even identify with, that need this assistance, and for all the right reasons. And again, we're reminded so vividly, these are monies that we have paid in to the government in good faith that we're going to be able to have that at our access.
Right. It's like our insurance.
We find ourselves. Yes, exactly.
And really, I think it's so important because I have heard so many people that are really, really in need. And that's why we're glad to be able to have Barbara come on and talk about it, because there are people out there that really need help. And we always hear it said that the people who have worked hard for years and years and years and now need that hard work to pay off for them or to help them to live their lives can't tap in.
Right. And her process is one that's very real. That's like having a conversation with your mom, and I know that what she says is true. She will take you by the hand and lead you, through the process, which can be overwhelming if you're not familiar with it.
Sure.
Most of us are not and haven't been down those roads. So you want someone that understands that process to avoid, some of the pitfalls of just not knowing, not knowing what you don't know, which is sometimes your worst enemy. I think she's very sincere. I think she's very empathetic. And I think she's very fair. And I think she's not going to probably string you along if it's a situation that she and her vast years of experience has recognized is something that is not going to qualify you. Then I suspect she's going to be very upfront about that. You cannot ask for more than that in an attorney to represent you in any forum.
Absolutely.
I think that those qualities to me are stand up, and they are the kind of things that make you feel good about who you're doing business with. And she certainly is a member of an agency and a firm that at every turn you can feel good about what's happening at NBA. And she's just yet another example of really the niche that's needed and an audience that's needed.
But if we wouldn't have a conversation like this, we wouldn't know that Neblett Beard and Arsenault has that little niche.
Right.
Because a lot of people are in need of help, but you wouldn't necessarily know to look to them, that she's like a jewel hidden there. But she talked about, as you said, all those years of working for the federal government. And what I like about Barbara is that she's not going to string you along.
Right.
She's gonna be upfront and point blank. But she has both of those attributes where she can tell you how it is, but she has the empathy and the compassion to help you and your family if you have found yourself in a situation where you're unable to work and have applied for Social Security Disability. And she talks about, the numbers. Most people, a large percentage of the people, are going to be turned down on the first try. Mm-hmm. And so if that's you, why not go and sit and have a free consultation and lay your cards out on the table, and you can be sure that you're with a person that you can trust and that's going to be open and honest with you about what's going on. And as she said, and I told her, look, don't put your light out. She said about 80% of the cases, I win about 80% of the cases. That's something
and that her experience is paying off there for both her firm as well as her clients. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing worse, to find yourself in a situation where you have a genuine need and to maybe leave a situation thinking and having hope about something that frankly, she may have already realized your scenario is not going to afford you this. It doesn't mean that you don't have obstacles in your life, but for what you're trying to do here, it's not going to apply to you. And I just value that. I think there's a huge message there of saving people the disappointment and the agony of waiting, so that they can go on and find where the resource is that they need to be. And it may be a whole different need that they have. And I know that folks want to always blame the messenger sometimes, If the answer is not what you think it should be, then it must be the messenger is the problem. But I can assure you from her years of experience, her sincerity, and her genuine interest in the people that she's representing, you can take good heart in the fact that what information she gives you is going to be some that you should listen to, you should adhere to, you're going to learn from it, and the outcome is going to be one that you can go and be at peace with those decisions. Great, great, great interview. A great lady doing a job that is needed and doing it very well.
Very well said. We're out of time for now. I'm Carlette Christmas.
And I'm Glenda Stock, and this has been our final point today, On Point.
Stay with us, everybody. We'll be back right after this.